Yep. You can give it a good rat.
Okay, we're getting started. Got what to do. So,
Oh, right.
order, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna go right to this one right here.
Got it. Okay, our first thing is Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Ann, can you do the roll call?
You bet. Commissioner Howard is coming in remote. Commissioner Spritka,
Here.
Commissioner Schultz,
Here.
Commissioner Haas,
Here.
Commissioner Cruz,
Here.
Commissioner Meyer,
Here.
Commissioner Starr,
Here.
Commissioner Wind,
Here.
and also excused is
Commissioner Stefani.
Stefani. Star.
That's right.
Okay, now we're to point 3, a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll give a quick reminder. As you know, it's the longest consent agenda of the year. I think it's the longest packet in terms of overall pages too. If there's a particular item from the consent agenda that someone would have a question about, remember, we should simply, when we make the motion to adopt the agenda, ask that insert number be moved, or maybe it's a couple numbers, be moved to the very first item in the operations agenda, where we kick that down. Because then consent as a whole gets approved right as a group, but we can have any individual discussion you want on one or more of the other items. So doesn't come up very often. This is kind of the rare one of the year where that's most likely.
Thank you. Okay, it looks like we don't have anybody here for public comment.
We'll go back. Sorry. We can get emotions with that. No, I threw off your vibe. You're good.
Okay. Number 3, motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda presented dated Wednesday, June 17th, 2026.
I'll second that.
Great, so we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none.
All those in favor?
Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. Thanks for the help and your patience. Okay, nobody's here for public comment. So now we're gonna move on to the recognition. We have our 2025 Hunter Education Group of the Year recognition.
And I believe you would be one of a number of parents who have had kids go through the program that we're about to talk about. So if we could have our guests come on down to the podium. I will come up. Sure. Here's on the list.
Hurdles.
I have mine.
Just get me. All right.
Microphone or anything you need.
I will pick you up right off of these two fancy little owl items right there.
Well, I'll just start with, obviously, congratulations. So we received a nomination here for the TJ Walker Middle School Hunter Ed Group, for our instructor group of the year. So that's throughout the state, right? All of our groups that are teaching Hunter Ed, archery, we get nominations and it's open to anybody. And so we got a couple nominations for this group. So extremely proud of that. We sit down, I'm on the committee. Actually, I'm Renee Thought. I'm sorry. I'm Renee Thought, Hunter Ed administrator. So I sit down, I'm on the committee. It's me and 2 other people who work for Hunter Ed expressly. We sit down, we read through all the nominations and your guys' suck out. Not just only the dedication that you have to it, but the number of students that you guys certify, the care that you take. And even, you know, the students that you teach just speak highly of this group altogether and just the instruction that you provide. So we're extremely proud of that. And it takes a village, and that's all of our instructors, but specifically for you guys, the time that you put into it, the volunteerism that you show and just the caring that you put into the program that that we hand to you guys. And it's our instructors that get this done for the state, that make our state one of the safest when it comes to hunting here, and the amount of recreators that we see come through here. I think it's also extremely special that we're able to have this in our schools because it's such a rich history when you look back in Wisconsin in general, just, you know, getting out into the woods and being a hunter. And it's something that's so powerful, I think, to be able to give to our youth today. So I'm really happy to see that it's so successful in some of our schools. We don't have that across the state in every school. We would love to. But as we were talking before, it's just, you know, it's kind of fading away a little bit, especially when you look into the schools and when you're thinking about a shooting sport, right? So the fact that we have people that care about it, that want to teach the safety to our students just means a lot to us. It means a lot to me as a parent when I think about the type of things that I want my kids to learn about in school. And really, it's not just about hunting in Wisconsin, it's about feeling confident and safe when you're gonna have a firearm in your hand. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you for all your work. You are what runs Hunter Ed 100%. I can sit up here all day and they talk about me or put my picture on something. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the instructors that put into it. So thank you so much.
Hard to follow up, but I got a little follow up. So my name's Kayla Sass. I'm the outdoor skills trainer for the Northeast region. So my job is to kind of coordinate volunteer instructors. So I work with Matt mostly, just kind of on the admin side of the classes. He's the one doing the actual hard work, but I'm a numbers person, so I kind of pulled some of your numbers from your classes. So this group has been going since 2017 and has taught every single year since 2017. Do you guys want to wager a guess how many total students you've certified in just Hunter Ed and archery? So I know you do everything else too, but in just Hunter Ed and archery, how many students do you think you've certified since 2017?
Up to 40, and say.
Oh, if you're not far off,
Yeah.
I came up with 269. So 269 students in these 9 years that they have had an impact on teaching the safety courses. And again, this is an award for hunter education, but again, you guys are teaching everything. So this is great. And I know I work primarily with Matt, who's a great communicator. I can tell you're just a great teacher in the schools. I do have, so Conservation Warden Chris Krejcia, I know has helped you guys out quite a bit too. He's on vacation and he's not able to be here, but he sent me an email with a great write-up on these guys, and I'm just gonna read his words verbatim because he did a great job on it. So these are, I'm no longer me. Imagine that I'm Chris Krejcia and giving this speech. So, his thoughts, so this was addressed to me, he goes, me, Kayla, can probably attest the time and dedication required to make just like one course happen. Let alone 4 courses, because you guys are teaching Hunter Ed, archery, ATV, snowmobile, boat, all of them. Plus going on salmon rearing field trips and an end of the year fishing outing. Chris says 10 years ago, the right people came together to make this outdoor skills class a reality. And the community is so fortunate for it. As a conservation warden working in this community, I too am so, and not me, remember Chris, am fortunate and grateful to the group. To be honest, he's a bit jealous and he would have given anything to have a class like this when he was in middle school, which was only a couple of years ago. There's no better venue than a school to teach these important life skills, and no better people to instruct these life skills than the experienced teachers and members of the community. Whether or not a student's family owns a firearm or a boat or a snowmobile or UTV, the students will find themselves taking part in these activities at a friend or a relative's home now or sometime in the future. And they now have a base of knowledge to keep themselves and others safe. So thank you, Matt, Dan, Mark, and all the teachers and instructors that made and continue to make this course happen. What a terrific group of dedicated, knowledgeable, and caring individuals. Congratulations from Chris Krejcia. So I worked very much more closely with these guys than I have, but I mean, those words speak the testament to what these guys are doing. So I hope you guys see it as much as we do. So, and thanks for your support for allowing them to do it in the school as well. Like Renee said, not every administration allows this kind of stuff, but it is so beneficial to the community at large and to the students themselves. So
We
You
were
guys are
talking,
awesome.
you only get to see us if it's like really good or really. This is very good.
Yes.
Yes. Not yelling at you right now. But, yeah, so we'll see you in another year when you. But, well.
So we do have a plaque for you guys. I don't know how you guys wanna share it.
Just B for the file room, maybe?
We also brought in the back for you guys too, we have some Hunter Ed mugs and obviously we had a nice
This
picture
is-
framed of like the
Limited edition.
original Hunter Ed kind of like ideal of what classes were, right? Like a bunch of people sitting on a porch talking about
Yeah.
how to be safe out there or planning their hunt, so probably looks a little different than how you guys hold it, but you know.
And I gotta say thank you to everybody too, and to Kayla, for everything, and to Mark, because Mark gave us this, I don't know, 10 years ago, when you started, he came around to everybody and said, get kids interested in doing something besides study hall, and that's how this whole thing just shook out, and so it's pretty awesome.
But then you took it and ran with it.
Yeah, I did. Well, with some help, we had 12 instructors, just alone from school that went and got immediately certified.
Yeah.
Some of them have gone on to other positions and different jobs in different buildings at this point, but the immediate response from school was pretty awesome, so,
That is,
yeah.
absolutely. Congratulations.
Congrats, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Smiling at Angie, just to
Yep.
make sure you got it.
Do I do one more?
Maybe you can say, if everyone's looking at it, we got a scrunch. Can we get it? She's good.
Yep.
Becca's got it too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Our meetings are really exciting. I think they're playing tonight, a lot of music instead of a art out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Either for you and whoever's looking.
All right, I think we can go on to the
Consent.
long consent agenda as you start to read through those items.
Okay, so I'm gonna read through the consent agenda and then once we get to the end, we'll look for a motion. There's a lot to read through though. Okay, so point one, approve the minutes from the regular meeting of May 20th, 2026. And the learning session of June 3rd, 2026. Point two, approve May bills. Point three, accept grants and donations, including the elementary playground, which received $1,000 from Sturgeon Bay Utilities and $5,000 from Bayview Evangelical Lutheran Anderson Endowment. $500 from Dennis Ott and Jackie Sochek for the music department. A donation to Clipper Clays from $500 from Just in Time Charitable Fund. $453 to Sturgeon Bay Parent Teacher Group.
Yep.
For the 4K field trip to the farm. $355 from the same group for the second grade trip to the Maritime Museum. $1,000 from HATCO for the high school robotics program. And then Raybrook also donated to the robotics program. So thank you for that generosity. Point four, approve resignations and retirements. Abigail Bethke is resigning from her teacher associate position at Sunrise at the end of the school year. And Angela Nerby is resigning from her teaching position at Sunrise effective at the end of the school year. Point five, approve second readings for the following employee handbook related items. A, professional staff employee handbook. B, professional staff salary and supplemental pay guide. C, support staff employee handbook. Point six, approve fundraising calendars for 2026-2027. This is done annually as part of our operational procedures and to prepare for the next school year. Contained in the packet should be fundraising calendars for the middle school, the high school, and Sunrise. Okay, point seven, approve Sturgeon Bay High School Student Parent Handbook. Point eight, approve Sturgeon Bay High School Faculty and Staff Handbook. Point nine, approve TJ Walker Middle School Student Parent Handbook. Point 10, approve TJ Walker Middle School Faculty and Staff Handbook. Point 11, approve Sunrise Elementary Student Parent Handbook. Point 12, approve Sunrise Elementary Faculty and Staff Handbook. Point 13, approve Sawyer Elementary Student Parent Handbook, and point 14, approve Sawyer Elementary Faculty and Staff Handbook. Point 15, approve special education policies and procedures. Approval of the policies and procedures occurs annually to ensure smooth operations and that proper updates are done, communicated to the board, and available to the public. We typically use the DPI sample guide. Point 16, approve at-risk plan. Approval of the plan occurs annually to ensure smooth operations and that proper updates are done, communicated to the board, and available to the public. Point 17, approve early graduation request. There are 2 early graduation requests appropriately working their way through the established process and now have come before the board for formal approval in alignment with our past practices. Those requests were shared separately from the board packet through the Board of Education Google Folder process. Okay, point 18, approve request for cultural stool at commencement. Board policy 5460 graduation requirements covers a variety of topics from the actual credit requirements to transfer students, from early graduation requests to a variety of things involved with the commencement ceremony requirements, from wearing the prescribed cap and gown to diploma distribution and more. The Wisconsin Act 222 provides for statewide consistency so Indigenous students can display their cultural identity alongside their academic achievements. However, students who are not from a federally recognized American Indian tribe or band are not part of the statewide exception. A student of a different cultural background has planned a year ahead of time and made a request regarding a cultural stole the student would like to wear along with the prescribed cap and gown. Dan has communicated with both Mike and I about the best way to bring this forward without providing information that would identify the student and having it be part of this portion of the agenda immediately following the early graduation request item. Okay, point 19, approve Wisconsin Association of School Boards membership renewal. Enclosed in the meeting packet is a scanned copy of the WASB renewal letter as well as the report to the membership, a copy of complimentary subscriptions and publications that we receive as part of our membership, and the dues invoice. The annual dues would become $5,458 for the 2026-2027 fiscal year. Point 20, approve overnight athletic trips for the 2026-2027 school year. Athletic Director John Dupuy has worked with our head coaches and Principal Nerby to assemble the overnight athletic trip request for this next school year. Obviously, a trip to state could impact this, but that would be nothing new or reason to be concerned. It would actually be very exciting. As stated in the past, the thinking is to have all scheduled overnight athletic trips for the year approved at the same time at the start of the year in an organized fashion. It is appropriate to point out that special trips involve fundraising, cost to the student athlete family and/or to the supporting parent or community group. The school district does not use tax dollars in the form of budget dollars to pay for additional or special overnight trips and the related costs, upgrades from a school bus to a coach bus, or any other such costs that may be associated with some of these trips now or in the future. Here's a quick overview of the trips submitted by Athletic Director Dupuy. The varsity boys soccer is participating in a tournament at the Prairie School in Racine, August 28th and 29th, 2026. Boys soccer quad is participating in Cedarburg in September 2026. Girls soccer is planning a games and college tour in spring 2027. Volleyball is participating in the Kettle Marine Tournament, September 11th and 12th, 2026. Volleyball is also going to Just a Game Tournament, August 25th and 26th of 2026. Wrestling, this already happened and my boys went to it and it was awesome. This was summer camp at Iowa Central Community College, June 8th through 11th, 2026. And then there's a wrestling tournament for the girls in Sheboygan and the boys in Oshkosh, December 28th and 29th, 2026. Okay, we raced through that. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Great, we got a motion from Commissioner Cruz, seconded by Commissioner Wind. Further discussion?
I've got a couple questions. Point 4, I'm assuming that's the end of this school year. I didn't know when this school, like,
Yeah.
those contracts end.
Yeah.
Right.
Reads a little funny at this point in the year when they were
Yeah,
submitted,
gotta be a-
school was still in session, but yeah, no,
Um,
clarification is correct.
yeah, cool, thanks. That was good.
Okay, hearing nothing else. We have a motion that was approved and seconded by Commissioner Wind. All those in favor?
Aye.
I opposed.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
That's a long motion,
Yeah.
especially for your first time having to run that. So thank you very much.
We made it through.
That's right. Just as I get ready to go into it, so again, we don't need anything from the first item. I will just comment as an aside. I know, Coach Goblish has touched base with me about the possibility of a trip next June. But with the UW Oshkosh coaching staff chair, head coach left and this, it just wasn't known. So it didn't happen this summer. It isn't on the books yet for next summer, but my guess is Oshkosh will probably bring it back. I told them at this point not to worry about it. I think you guys have been in contact with it just as a part of the normal
Want
basketball.
to make sure you had it on there.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So it's like, we'll see what happens, so we'll figure that out, because as you stated, Allison, right, the wrestling one happened, it just happened, even though, right, it was the start of summer. So that, and thanks for that on the graduation stool. Thought it was a very appropriate request. A young lady who obviously has thought well in advance, had nice communication with Mrs. O'Hanley, so we kind of went back and forth. We pulled together an official request super quickly. I reached out to Allison and Mike saying, this is a little different, but I think here's where it probably fits. Probably isn't something that's gonna come up that often, but I don't think would cause a distraction in any way based on what I currently know. So yeah, thank you for that. I think we can go to number 2, right? I can hop into that. Approving teachers. Again, we went kind of from a situation where we didn't have any teacher retirements, as you know, and weren't sure of any resignations, to all of a sudden kind of ended up having a couple situations. Right, with one family move and a leave of absence, as you have seen and approved already. So we'll start with that. So the 3rd grade teacher position, which technically is 1-year contract, I can tell you, this individual, well, Emily, right, it is certified in a few different areas. We have already received word of, actually, we've gotten something in writing from someone who plans to retire after next year. I won't say that aloud just yet, but the person has been in contact with their principal and with me. And we've also been told there's another situation or two, while not formally known, where people are leaning toward retiring. So I would imagine we'd have at least one, if not a couple different situations where Ms. Elbert would be certified for, and then we'll be able to have appropriate conversations around that. So before I go into that, just so you know, because that's a natural thing for us all to wonder, right? All right, so here we go. With 3rd grade over at Sunrise, Emily Elbert. Sunrise team is extremely excited to welcome Emily Elbert as a new 3rd grade teacher for this next school year, 26-27. Ms. Elberg is a Sturgeon Bay alum, graduate of UW Oshkosh, completed her student teaching at Sunrise and Sawyer, did an amazing job. She's dual certified in both regular and special education. Interview team was impressed by Ms. Elberg, and the students were equally impressed by her lessons. I should point out, even though it was summer, there were students present to participate in kind of a mock lesson as another one of the tests that are done at that level. We know Katie continues that she'll be an incredible addition to our team, and they want to, of course, welcome Emily. So a motion to approve Emily Elbert as a 3rd grade teacher for a 1-year contract for the 2026-2027 school year is recommended.
I will make a motion to approve Emily Elberg as a 3rd grade teacher for a 1-year contract for the 2026-2027 school year.
Second.
Great, so we have a motion from Commissioner Wind, seconded by Commissioner Howard, with Kathy. Myers, sorry, Kathy. Got your last name for a second. Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great, motion passes.
All right. Other one up for approval tonight with 4th grade at Sunrise. You see listed EL. Jen Weber and others are still working on the EL one. So we'll see what we have for you in the future there. But going to that next one, really 2B, Abrielle Lenius. The Sunrise team is beyond excited to welcome Abrielle Lenius as a new 4th grade teacher. Miss Lenius, as you know, is a Sturgeon Bay alum, graduate of UW Milwaukee. Most recently completed her 1st year of teaching 4th grade at our neighbors at Southern Door. She student taught in Milwaukee Public Schools, which is a little fact some may not know, and brings with her a wealth of experience accordingly. Interview team was extremely impressed by her philosophy and the example she gave with the wisdom of a veteran teacher, although right early in her career. Sunrise is confident she'll be an incredible addition to the team and wants to welcome her. A motion to approve Abrielle Lenius as a fourth grade teacher beginning with the 2026-27 school year is recommended.
I will make a motion to approve Abby Lenius as a fourth grade teacher beginning with the 2026-2027 school year.
Second. Great, so we have a motion from Commissioner Wind, seconded by Commissioner Cruz. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, motion passes.
Mr. Wynn, I'm guessing both are former students.
And they're very good. so.
Yes. Yeah, when we were getting this all pulled together and gotten things wrapped up, right? The Sunrise team did its thing, Jake and the others at district office, right? Katie Smullen. Brian, I had a chance to connect with both of the young ladies when they were visiting. We're getting that all figured out and they accepted positions right in the coming hours. And I found myself down walking through the high school offices. I do a lot, especially a lot right in recent months. And I said to Mrs. O'Hanley, I said, this is good, but I'm having one of those moments where I'm feeling a little older. Because, you know, we're adding two more students that have, of course, graduated even since I've been here to the district team, which is really cool. But it's like, oh boy, there are several of those individuals. So
Mr. Wynn
Kinda cool.
actually serves on the school board with one of his former students.
yes,
That's
good
true.
call. Good call.
Actually, two. You know.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
Wow.
All right. So again, stay tuned. I know, so Jen Weber's running point on this, talking with other team members, talking with some folks. So we don't have anything formal for you, but yes, she and others have been working on that. Stay tuned. And again, remember, we are covered for the start of the year. Our person really did an outstanding job for us and we hate to leave her, but we understand they're expanding or building their family and so forth. So she'll start the year with us, our current EL person, right? And then we'll be transitioning on to leave, let's just say late fall now for purposes of who knows exactly, right? What happens with Mother Nature and the timing of pregnancy. So we're covered to start, long story short. But we knew, boy, if you wait until that point in the year to even try to find someone, that's going to be problematic at best. So we'll see what happens. All right, if okay, I'll continue on to operations agenda number 3 with some coaches advisors. Right, we have the 3 for you tonight. First of all, 3A, JV1/varsity assistant girls volleyball. Athletic Director Dupuy recommends Elise Incha for the head JV1/varsity assistant coach. Our girls coaching position in volleyball. Ms. Incha is a current educator, of course, for us here at the high school. She'd like to get more involved in different programs in her second year of her career for us. Excited about this opportunity. She has extensive playing experience. I believe she's also done some line judging, officiating type stuff in volleyball as well. Again, the group would be excited to have her join the volleyball staff. So a motion to approve Elise Incha as the head JV1/varsity assistant girls coach for volleyball, beginning with the 2026-27 school year is recommended.
Move to approve Elise Incha as the head JV1 varsity assistant girls coach in the 2026-2027 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Schultz, seconded by Commissioner Wind. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
All right, 3B, boys assistant soccer coach. Athletic Director Dupuy recommends Matthew Broomhall as the boys assistant soccer coach. Mr. Broomhall has been coaching club soccer at a high school level for 13 years. He's previously worked under head coach Todd Moss for the past 8 seasons. Mr. Broomhall also brings an abundance of knowledge from his own playing years and experience. The group's excited to have him step up into this role on really, I guess, our soccer staff with our soccer team. A motion to approve Matthew Broomhall as a boys assistant soccer coach beginning with the 2026-27 school year is recommended.
I will move to approve Matthew Broomhall as the boys assistant soccer coach beginning with the 2026-2027 school year.
One second.
Great. We have a motion from Commissioner Wynn, seconded by Commissioner Starr. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, and the final one in this category for tonight, 3C, Fall Cheer Advisor. Athletic Director John Dupuy recommends Mackenzie Carlson to lead the Fall Cheer Squad. John continues and gives us the notes that our cheer program has not had an advisor the last 2 years, for those who don't know. And is excited to have a teacher step in to take this lead role. Remember, Mackenzie Carlson is one of our younger English teachers here at the high school. Ms. Carlson has put in time with students advocating to bring back the cheer program. And John's talked to some kids, so on and so forth. Currently feels there are a good enough number of students who want to participate to give this a run, if you will, for the upcoming fall season. A motion to approve Mackenzie Carlson to lead fall cheer beginning with the 2026-2027 school year is recommended.
I move to approve Mackenzie Carlson to lead the fall cheer, beginning with the 26-27 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Cruz, seconded by Commissioner Schultz to approve Mackenzie Carlson to lead fall cheer this coming year. Further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Right. We're gonna do a little bit of food service business, which, as you saw in here, isn't something that comes up every year. But again, Jenny consulted with Jake and got this pulled together for us tonight. So dealing with food purchasing agreements in food service. I'll go back to the notes. Food Service Director Spoody solicited informal bids for purchasing agreements for bread, milk, and prime/main vendor this month. Over the past 2 years, food service purchased an average of $6,000 in bread products through the contracted bread company Panagold, an average of $40,000 in liquid milk products through Prairie Farms, and $245,000 from the prime/main food vendor Gordon Food Service. Every 5 years, bids must be solicited. Awarded bid is year 1 with 4 additional optional extension years, which is why we don't hear about this every year. All bids are due for solicitation for the school year 26-27. Director Spoody received only 1 response from companies who would deliver to our area and provide school-approved products of bread, Panagold, and milk, Prairie Farms. Director Spoody's recommendation is to continue purchasing a partnership with each of these companies. They both provide high-quality products and packaging that reduces waste at a much better price than we could purchase through the prime main vendor GFS. Director Spoody recommends we renew with Panagold and Prairie Farms. The district received 2 responses for prime main vendor Cisco and GFS. Both are able to provide deliveries twice a week within our delivery time window, receive and then distribute our USDA, right, those commodity foods. GFS had a lower overall cost for 75% of our regularly purchased items, as both bidding companies completed this request in a market-based analysis worksheet. GFS had a lower bid response volume cost even before the possible rebates. Jenny continues. The GFS cost projection for the volume of foods we purchase, as well as lower price/handling charge for USDA foods. GFS provides rebates, early pay discount of 1%, which Jenny writes we do. Commitment to purchasing 90% of all purchases through GFS, rebate at 1.25, which we do not do. And a USDA foods handling rebate of really 0.25%, which we also do. Director Spoody recommends renewing our contract with Gordon Food Service, or GFS in the notes. A motion to approve renewing contracts with Panagold, Prairie Farms, and Gordon Food Service beginning with the 2026-27 school year is recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve renewing contracts with Panagold, Prairie Farms, and Gordon Food Service beginning of the 26-27 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Starr, seconded by Commissioner Wind. Further discussion?
Actually, I have a question, and maybe Jake knows. So the 3 contracts are for the 3 values above in paragraph 1? Is that correct? Guess I'm just confused. Are we actually like awarding?
No, that's what we have purchased. It's an agreement. So the paragraph 1, that's what we purchased in the past.
in the past.
There's no-
school.
So there's no
There's
fiscal
no-
impact on these contracts. It's all market based,
Yeah.
month to month, delivery to delivery.
Run business doing.
So what's the point?
It's a state regulation that you gotta go out for, to have a contract with these vendors at least every 5 years, if not.
But, so does the contract have teeth? Like, we could go somewhere else if we want to, since there is no fiscal impact? So we're doing it, but.
We're still gonna get our fresh stuff, locally, the Stus,
But I think maybe there's an example
Yeah.
of the one that Jenny writes, which we did not do, the 1.25%. Saying, okay, we're gonna purchase at least 90% of our stuff through you. We do locally through Wasita Farms, Bailey's Harbor Fish Company, right? We do a number of local things that Jenny has connections, so we don't do that. So I think to your point, there's not like a particular fiscal tie.
Sure.
Or we sometimes ask the group to approve a certain amount or not to exceed or something. It's not that simple. I think it's like, okay, approve these vendors. Here as an example of what we've spent with them recently. But I think moving forward, right? We can continue with them the 4 years after that, or if Jenny would have some concerns, she could come to us and say, well, we think we need to go a different direction with at least one of these.
each year is a 1-year contract, very similar, haven't gone through it very much, but like the auditors. We approve when we go out to, RFQ, request for quotes or bids, and then it's a 1-year contract, even though it's really, they'll give us like 3-year rate locks or whatever. But they're really 1-year contracts.
So essentially, they're almost saying that they, yes, indeed, will be our 3 prime vendors,
Yes,
or we can choose to use them or not use them, correct? And that's what's on our books, correct, for the state.
yes.
Okay.
There's no minimum purchase percentage,
Well, 90%.
That's the 90.
right?
Right.
Okay, so
And then
there
they're
is a
gonna give
commitment.
us.
So there-
the discount.
There is a commitment and you're getting all those discounts based on that commitment.
Okay.
Yeah. And my guess is that it's a auto renew for a year without a 60-day notice, then turn it.
In the language or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how ours is with the same company up the hospital.
Okay. Well, thanks. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's a bit confusing for me. Appreciate it.
I do too. I always learn stuff when we talk through it.
Well, and some of it's clunky, let's be honest, right? I mean, it's working. Jenny has flexibility to go with local vendors. But evidently there's this requirement, which I know when we talked about, Jenny needs something approved. I thought, oh, did something happen? And Jake said, no, it's just regular. Jenny offered to come, but was like,
Yeah,
we don't need
She
to."
does a wonderful job.
Yeah, yeah, oh, yeah.
No, that's not the question at all. Of
course.
Yeah, trust her.
Yeah, some of these regulations are like, oh, I didn't realize that even exists at times. I mean, that happens with me as well.
I do appreciate my kid's favorite lunch food is salmon. I'm like, there's so lucky. Very lucky.
That is, yes.
If you like salmon, if you don't like
That's true.
salmon, it's not lucky.
There might be other items that people are lucky to say yes.
The cheese curds are good.
Oh, there are cheese curds, yes. All right, so I'm thinking, do we have I
We
called
have a
questions?
motion.
Yep.
I have it seconded,
Yep.
so I think we're to all those in favor.
I,
Okay. Damian, we heard you. Opposed? Nope, hearing none. Okay, motion passes.
All right, number 5, preliminary budget. Again, part of this explanation is really for anyone tracking this from home or watching a recording later. As the board well knows, each October is actually when the board formally adopts the budget for the current fiscal/school year and also sets that tax levy, right? However, our own board policy 0155 committees also states the following in part, right? This isn't the whole policy. The board as a whole shall act as a committee on school finance. Jumping ahead, point C, during the months of April and May, committee shall receive prepared estimates of the budget for the ensuing fiscal year, showing anticipated expenditures and needed revenues for the year. This budget shall be presented to the board for preliminary approval in June, hence tonight, right, and final approval in October. The way we've operated, especially in the past few years, the board sees regular updates based on the current year, right, not just in April and May, as well as projections for the next year. Again, frankly, the next several years due to the operational referendum cycle, as you know. Business Manager Holtz can take us through any additional explanation information as we need, as we look to the 26-27 fiscal year. Again, point to some attachments and adjustments to revenues and expenditures. Preliminary budget spreadsheet plus preliminary budget narrative should be with a meeting packet. Plus, I know Jake has sent a few emails recently to keep you updated with our operations agenda items. So I'll finish the notes for the moment with a motion to approve the preliminary budget for 2026-27. I'll say as presented is recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary budget for the 2026-27 year as presented.
I'll second that.
Great. Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Spritka, seconded by Commissioner Cruz. Further discussion?
Like, there's a particular question, or do you want just a short summary that might save them from any questions, Jake? And I know we've walked them through this a few times recently, but.
A couple things like Dan mentioned, definitely will change. Usually not a whole lot between now and when the final one is approved in October. Some notable stuff that's happened in the last couple of weeks between starting to put this together and now with the young ladies, we approved saving actually about $50,000 between health insurance and just being younger teachers than those leaving. I was able to work with their Director Ferry is working through as she's hiring some of her new special education aides, working through and making some of them under 32 hours, which is non-benefits. So kind of going back to where we were about 10 years ago, where most of our aides were at 30 to 32 hours. And so that will represent a savings. I'm not sure exactly how much yet. An extra expense over the last couple of weeks as Mr. Chernago, Mr. Smallin, Mr. Dupuy's been visiting with their various departments with the schedule change and different numbers in the classes at the high school, middle school level. We'll expect that we'll have some expenses. For example, up in science, Mr. Kike mentioned, hey, there's a good chance we're going to need some extra beakers for bigger classes. Tech ed had some stuff, family consumer ed, cooking utensils, storage stuff. So stuff like that. Right now in my mind, I think that would cap out at 20,000. I'm certainly probably not going to be 20,000, but we'll probably have a 1-year budget for that type of stuff. And then finally, I included this on the email, the year-end projection that I sent earlier today, the voucher piece. Still waiting on an answer from the state on that. If you didn't see that yet, I sent that over about 2, so no big deal. And it is in front of you. We get a reconciliation on, it was this past Monday, the state puts it out. And our voucher expense was $50,000 last, right about 50,000 than what was certified in October, which is a huge percent off of 300,000. And so just trying to figure out what's going on. Is there tax levy implications? I don't think we'll see a penalty for over levying since we under levied by what was available to us in October by 100,000. I want to, right, is this something that's going to go on? Was it something that they found that, right, given our city dynamics, we find students every year, you know, over by Walgreens, Target, that are in the Southern Door School District or vice versa. Is this a case where they've had students at Bosco or another school that think they're Sturgeon Bay residents, Sturgeon Bay School District residents, but they're not, and some audit found it. So is it gonna carry over? Does it go to do they do a look back on it? So a lot of questions there. But I would expect some kind of change in the budget off of that. Really, the only thing that would not affect surplus deficit projection. But it would affect the levy, so.
If there were students who were supposed to be in Southern Door instead of here, like how many students does $50,000 represent?
I ran that, I can't remember if it was 5 or 6.
Okay,
Out of, I believe it was 5 out of 26 that we were looking at in October, so. Yeah,
And we just didn't catch that?
we do not get to look at that.
Yeah, it's actually a good question. It's an administration frustration every year. So the state won't allow us to know who the people are that represent these vouchers. And I get it in some places if someone were hassling them or strong arming them or whatever, right? We are absolutely confident. I can't say sure because I can't know who they are, but we are confident that over the years, we've had people that just, oh, I'm in Sturgeon Bay, right? City of Sturgeon Bay, don't think anything of it. I remember talking to our realtor when I was moving to town, who was sure that the houses behind Target were Sturgeon Bay, and of course, we know, no, they're Southern Door, but a majority of those families certainly come our way, right? So that dynamic, so you're right, Andy, because I remember Tom Olson and I talking about this, like, so we're just supposed to take their word for it. You know, and I don't mean they, the family, like the state, who's not paying close attention. So what Jake did on our behalf is reached out all the way to Tom McCarthy. He's deputy state superintendent. He's the one that superintendents typically deal with, to actually, you know, from there, farm information to the right departments back and forth. So Jake has put together a message for Tom, highlighting the situation, just kind of, can we understand? Are there implications going forward? What, just to make sure we can plan accordingly, like you said, especially Jake, with the levy implications. So we'll see what Tom either comes back with himself, or maybe he'll send someone our direction to say, all right, Sturgeon Bay, here's where we think that happened. But yeah, it's one of those things that you'd think would be quite obvious, that we would at least know and see a spreadsheet of names, because there are that for other systems, right? Incoming, outgoing, open enrollment, all those types of things, but this is something different.
I guess we get their address when they
Nope,
fill out to come to school here?
we don't know when they come.
When they come here.
They have been a voucher.
I'm just saying that, you're saying that they're a voucher because they came to our school district, but they were supposed to be in Southern Door.
No, they're going to a private school, that accepts vouchers. So they are not in our building. That, based on the numbers I ran, they're probably all K-8 students.
At a private school.
At a private school.
So what does it matter about Southern Door?
Because Southern.
Where they actually live.
That's where they live.
Southern Door would.
Even though they said they would.
Cause like, if they come from here, we have to pay for
That's
it.
why we don't see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a little convoluted, but yeah.
And I do know Southern Doors, cause I can see everybody's, Southern Doors expense went up 30,000. So not the exact same, but that's my hunch, is that that's.
That's what I read. Yeah.
But we'll see.
So stay tuned on that. Yeah, I think just so you don't get the wrong idea. So I think like when we were meeting with science, I was sitting next to Craig Kiefer, and he said, well, normally I only, and again, as a board member parent, you can appreciate this. I usually only have about half the biology students at once. So as we're doing our experiments and all of our glassware, but this next year, because of the 8-period day, I'll have them scattered throughout the year at the same time. I'm not sure. I think some of the stuff I have is probably fine. Some of it I just don't know. I might need more of. And I was like, nope, no problem. This is a one-time thing that came up in a few of the department meetings that Mark, John, and I were having. I shared that with Jake, so Jake could be like, all right, let's just try to have a little budget item, you know, whether it's tech ed needs to get lumber more often than usual, because they can't store it and take up so much space because of the way that the day works and all that kind of. So we're just working through some of those, and we've assured the teachers, hey, if something pops up, you just got to let us know. We can figure this out. These aren't major dollar things, but so far so good on that. And again, the AIDS health insurance, for anyone watching this, the board has already heard this. We're not taking insurance away from any of our current or returning aides. The thinking is, as Lynn's nodding from across the room too, right, as we're replacing some of the positions, as people move on, some of those positions then are going back to like the old days, as Jake said, that wouldn't be enough hours to qualify for health insurance. So again, not taking that away from any current or returning employees. I think those are the high points. Anything else that we can hit for you?
okay, so returning, we have a motion and a second. Good discussion. So all those in favor?
I.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
All right, next up, board meeting calendar. I won't read all of this. Right, we talked last month, you officially took action to approve the board meeting night, knowing there are some times where we make some little tweaks, right? So Ann and I had gone back through that calendar, right, that one pager with the 12 boxes, if you will, one for each month. All right, so we've got that, and again, for highlights that we will be able to go with the traditional third Wednesday in October, the first bullet point, right, where we get that aid certification October 15th. Jake is comfortable making that work. The next one in January, we see that tweak due to the education convention in Milwaukee falling over what would be the third Wednesday. June, again, I marked the learning session with the question mark, right? Some years we have it, some years we don't. We did end up bringing that back this year with everything happening at the end of the year. And then that fourth bullet point, I won't read, but in italics, I have for you that we're looking at those couple of work sessions in August. Didn't necessarily go through adding them to the calendar, but I was just updating the learning session schedule for next year, which we usually start with the August budget session right before the August meeting. And I've added notes for August 5th and August 12th. So we'll probably push that out to you this summer, and then we'll revisit it when we actually have a more traditional learning session in September. A motion to approve the board meeting calendar for the 2026-2027 fiscal year is recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve the board meeting calendar for the 2026-2027 fiscal year as recommended.
Second. Great, we have a motion from Commissioner Myers, seconded by Commissioner Cruz. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Yeah, next up, we've got the CISA 8 service contract, right? Separate. So we know we're members of CISA 7 out of Green Bay, CISA 8 out of Gillett, Wisconsin. They provide some unique services. I know Lindsay's been on with a counterpart at CISA 8 just to make sure that although these can change, making sure what they have is accurate. I'll go back to the notes. Included in the meeting packet is a CISA 8 service summary sheet, also a contract for the next year. Since services we receive from CISA 8 are for providing exceptional educational services to students, it's possible that needs can change as IEPs change during the course of the year. But again, you hear this every year, that's nothing new. CISA 8 simply asks districts to approve the contract at this time of year since they need to secure staff to provide the anticipated needs for the next school year. And again, then Lindsay stays in contact with them to adjust as needed. A motion to approve the 2026-2027 CISA 8 services contract is recommended.
Move to approve the 2026-2027 CISA 8 services.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Schultz, seconded by Commissioner Starr to approve the 2026-2027 CISA 8 service contract. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
All right. Next up, informational item. This is new, at least at the current time, to our board agendas and really for public notice purposes. Board members are well aware of this, given recent conversations and direction. So I'm just going to kind of talk through this. So while normally we're talking to the board and informing the public, and I'm admitting that some of this might be a little bit of a review for the board, but it's mostly for the public because board members, you know this. All right, so while no formal board action needs to occur until August, as we've discussed recently, we want to start having a standing board agenda item that deals with the upcoming replacement educational programming operational referendum. The current 5-year operational referendum was approved by voters in April of 2022, and it expires on June 30th of 2027. The board currently plans to approve a resolution in our August 19th, 2026 regular Board of Education meeting to go to our voters on November 3rd of 2026 as a part of that fall general election. We've worked with the school, with school perceptions to assemble a community survey that will be going out over the summer. I can insert, we believe, right? And based on the communication, it should be next week. Somewhere, so I'm on WDOR next Tuesday morning, we believe, if not Tuesday, Wednesday-ish, give or take a day or two, because you know how mail can go, right? But it should be landing in mailboxes next week. I'll go back to the notes. Most updated timeline would have that survey landing, as I just said, now actually next week rather than late June. With the survey deadline in July, we now know it to be July 8th. July 8th will be that deadline. We're starting to bump out. So school perceptions can assemble the various reports for us. The early hope, I'll go off script for a moment before I go back to the notes, board members, just so you know. Bill is hopeful he can get us, even if they're very preliminary results, around the time of our July 15th board meeting, right? About a week after the survey closes, and then get us reports that we can start to kind of think through later in July, which should be in plenty of time for our planned August 5th work session with some community stakeholders we'll invite and so on and so forth. Okay, I'll go back to the notes for now. As with the last two community surveys we've conducted, community members will be invited to participate either electronically or via a paper survey. School Perceptions, as you and I know, oversees that process. They, as the third or outside entity, third party, if you will then report results back to us in the district. Next paragraph. We also talked recently about adding those special work sessions the evening of August 5th and August 12th. We currently anticipate having the board invite stakeholders to a focus group to look at the survey results on August 5th. And again, we can probably skip the rest of that sentence because we should be ahead of schedule, so we shouldn't have to worry about bumping that back. Next paragraph. On the afternoon of Monday, June 8th, on behalf of the board, you know, I gave School Perceptions the green light to proceed with the survey following the updates made as a result of our June 3rd learning session. As a survey preview, if you will, for the community, the board will be asking respondents for feedback about a 5-year educational programming operational referendum. In a nutshell, we're asking the community for feedback. First part, $3.5 million per year for 5 years, with then kind of the next two parts, as the board has discussed, 2 additional questions looking for community input on a couple possibilities. The first of these additional possibilities, what about the potential for an additional $250,000 to put towards staff compensation for a total referendum amount at that point of $3.75 million per year? And then also an additional question about an additional $250,000 for additional maintenance on top of what we're already doing, which could push then the total to a total of $4 million per year. Right. As the board has discussed, right, we wanted that to be as clear as possible through the survey so people can think through first of all, the referendum situation, then the 3.5, then the potential for 3.75 or 4, right? And again, we look forward to getting feedback from the community on where they believe things should be at. I'll go back to the notes. We plan to continue to have updates for the community each month as a part of our regular board meeting materials. Additionally, I've begun to update that 10-page frequently asked questions document that we've used with past referenda, as well as the abbreviated 2-page summary document we've provided to folks, families, etc. in the past. Those documents, I will continue to work on those over the summer since we want them to be available as soon as possible after the board would approve a formal resolution to put a referendum question on the ballot. The notes stop there. I'll just tell you, I know how massive this packet was that you were just working through, right? Because we handle and touch a lot of those things too. So I have a draft 1-pager. I had showed you in the work session 2 weeks ago, like, oh, we could use this to share with people to invite them to that August 5th session. So I have that updated. My thought was to get Jake and Ann's eyes on it after we've made it through this, and then share it with you for your thoughts on that. I also have kind of 2 pieces of data, some of our referendum survey history, right? So whether you're inviting someone who's very familiar with Sturgeon Bay or quite new to Sturgeon Bay, well, what have Sturgeon Bay referenda look like? So picture the version you see, which is probably a little bit longer. I would shorten that up for them. And then some of the budget assumptions, right? Jake had that kind of 2-sided piece of paper, right? With the spreadsheets and the colors, like what about health insurance? What about how many positions per year? All that. I was going to ask Jake then when Jake, Ann and I are connecting to like, okay, well, is it that version or is it a slightly simplified version? So someone coming before they even would come that night, they could have a chance to know, okay, here's at least a little bit of the history. And here's kind of where that number comes from. So as we get ready to delve into the survey feedback, they're a little more informed. So without, again, people are busy, right? We don't want to throw them 10 pages of documents or too much either. So frequently asked questions documents, right? We've got 2 historic, been working on those. We'll keep updating those, and then we'll give you a chance, obviously, for your input before those go out. And then those 2 other pieces, along with the invite for August 5th. So we're getting close, and maybe we'll push those out If not this week, maybe next week, once you give you a chance, for your mind to reset.
I have a question. I have like some public meetings for this project that I work on at work that I have to go out of town to attend, but is it more important, do you think, to attend the August 5th meeting or the August 12th meeting if I could get out of either?
I think my personal thought tonight for you would be August 5th. My sense is August 12th will be the chance for the board to review. Again, by that point, you will have seen the survey data probably quite a bit, right? Because you'll see it before August 5th. Plus, we'll have a chance to talk with some community folks. To me, there'd be great value in that. August 12th is probably a chance for the board to be like, okay, based on everything we've talked about, is there anything else we need to swing back through? And then looking at, so Coral's and Brady, right? Ann's been in touch with them down in Milwaukee, so they're on standby to have the official wording. We would like to see ready for you by August 12th. So when we get to the meeting on August 19th, you've all seen like, okay, when we approve a resolution, right? Some of you have done that before, and I realize some of you haven't had to do that yet. So that you've actually seen what that is. If you had to be at a meeting on the 12th, my point is, we would certainly send you and any other board member that had a conflict that information, so you know. So I would prioritize the 5th over the 12th at this point.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a quick thanks to the administration. I mean, this was kind of almost up on you guys, short notice, so taking this all on, especially, I mean, not that summertime's a real downtime for you guys, but appreciate the work right now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And we appreciate school perceptions moving as quickly as they have too. I think there's an example of all those firms want work, but when you've worked with them in the past, I mean, the capital referendum survey took 12 months. Right, so that's helpful that they knew us and we could work through that. Commissioner Spricker was about to say.
So I think that survey is coming out in the next 10 days, right, in the mail. Can we ask, I don't know who all we have here in the summer, like Spencer, to put something together for Facebook and Instagram to blast that ahead of time? Hey, this is coming. Right?
Yeah, so there's a
Several
few
different times, several different ways, right? And
Yep.
hopefully some of the people don't just throw it away like all the other political mail we're getting right now.
Fair. And I think we already got an email.
Yeah, so
that it's
in fact,
coming.
I'm gonna let Mrs. D address that because she's running with some of that for me because we're navigating some other things.
Okay.
So far with the emails, just as that example, I think great points.
Yep, we've sent it to all staff and we've sent a heads up email to all families in the district that it's coming. And then we are working with Beverly at School Perceptions on the timing for next week, that it's actually gonna, the actual survey is gonna go out to staff Monday, but I'm waiting to hear back from her the day it's gonna be in the mailboxes. That's the formalization of that.
And then there's at least on the email part, before we go back to other things that have been raised, they have, School Perceptions has a process because of all the codes that go with it, right? Because they're personalized, right? They can see if, for example, a family in the district hasn't responded to a survey, right? Or a staff member, whatever. Remember, that can all be filtered out, so they know who works for us and who doesn't and all that. And then there'll be basically a follow-up reminder email to folks that will come, I don't know if they decided what day, but during the survey window.
Yeah, it doesn't identify by who the person is, it identifies by a numerical reference. So if this numerically assigned survey didn't come back, that one gets another reminder to say, please send it again, please complete the survey. So.
And part of the backside of all the tech stuff, yeah, which is also nice. We're out of that, so it doesn't, well, you reminded so-and-so, because but you didn't remind. No, we don't do that.
Okay, very good.
That's great.
And it's one per family.
If a household, the letter will also say that if you need a second survey call. And we'll get them a number assigned, and like a 2-parent household or 3-person household, if you have multiple generations, and get extra ones for the household. You just assign a number.
In fact,
Again.
you know very well, and the person who provides either the paper copy or the code. Because it's you. So School Perceptions does their part, but if they call the district office, right, and basically has a list of codes, she can give them and mark off that code is gonna be used.
Just been used. Or...
Yeah, so yeah, if a person, right, couple of parents, couple of grandparents, like whatever the situation happens to be, there are ways to address all of it.
That's nice to know. So there's there's anonymity involved with these, so everybody
Yeah, a lot of-
understand that.
And I think that that's important to repeat again, is it's a
Exactly.
numerical identity, not a person.
Yeah, right, not your home address, last
Right.
name.
It's a numerical identity.
Well, the safeguards that are built into the data, so the data is like very secure, not from a HIPAA point of view, but that we can't be manipulated,
Yeah.
right? Of, you know, somebody's family's gonna write a program and give us 5,000 responses and be unrealistic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so basically, there's a process and been involved in with some of our other staff. Getting them the files, right? So we're not even getting them the files of our family email addresses, so school perceptions can do their thing, as well as our staff email to be able, because we have that. Let them do their thing.
Excellent.
So there's different pieces to it. And then really, if someone else is wondering, board, you've seen this a couple times now. But it ends up being, what is it, the bottom of page 4, where people are marking as far as where they live and whatnot, right? So the board gets the very important data we talked about 2 weeks ago, like, okay, it's one thing to know how everyone responds. But what about those who, yes, definitely are property owners, residents in Sturgeon Bay, who don't work for us, who don't have kids in school, like, we don't know those names. But the data, like, what does that percent of people say? Because that's one of a number of important data points. Absolutely, good questions. And I know because we had a meeting on the athletic complex today, which I'll just touch on in the report section, but one of the attendees, who's also a parent in our district, she told me, oh, I got the heads up email that the survey's coming out, and she just had a quick question. I said, oh, actually, we talked about this, but you'll see that probably next week. She said, okay, we'll be ready.
And since we're being recorded, I think it's a great time just to mention that within that survey, there's a little piece of information that talks about the fact that our school district would not be spending any funds on that project beyond our agreed to maintenance fees that exist right now.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, and we've talked about different pieces, which made it in the survey and which didn't, but you're absolutely right, Andy. And that was a point I reviewed with the steering committee today. Yes, great question. We didn't go too deep into that because it could have been a rabbit hole, but that will be a part, like when I'm on WDR next week, right? Just pointing out, we're supportive of that and we appreciate the partnership. But that's not the purpose of this referendum or others.
Yeah.
Which again, I know the board feels strongly about.
I'm sure we've all shared, you know, the idea of this referendum with maybe somebody. But I know that in the few folks I've talked to, they're calling that the elephant in the room. So just something for us all continue to promote that, yeah, it's a nice project the city is doing across the way.
Oh, the athletic field.
The athletic field,
Okay,
okay,
that's
sorry,
the
that's the point out.
Okay, got it.
Well, and in all seriousness, again, for anyone watching this and the board knows this, but there's a key difference, right, as we educate people between an operational referendum and a capital. Right, we're not talking about, you know, we did do a capital referendum several years ago, right, to add on to Sawyer, right? Sunset, like those types of capital improvements, absolutely. That's not what this referendum is, as we know. This is, and I like the terminology this community has used for, you know, boy, roughly, 20 years, if not longer, about educational programming, operational referendum. It's about programs, which largely, let's not kid ourselves, is about people. And yes, there's maintenance, which we do, and maybe we'll do even more, or maybe not, but it's about that. It's not about building another, an all-in-one elementary school, as we've talked about. It's not about building a track or a field house or a pool. It's not what it is.
Maybe we should get T-shirts that say like operational referendum, keep the lights on, keep our people paid or something. Yeah, I don't know.
But there are people a lot more creative than me could probably address that. So anyway, informational item, not to belabor that point, but we want that out there. We know, like our friend Barb at the League of Women Voters, right? She monitors our information and shares, right? This goes to local media stuff, and I know it's summer in Door County, but that we're doing what we can to push that out and get information back to see what folks think. More to come. Reports, right?
Yeah.
I think on the legislative front, right, they're still talking in Madison, and who knows if and when they'll figure something out. That's the short version of addressing that.
I mean,
I read 2 different articles about that today, actually.
That's an overbearing statement right there. Figure stuff out.
Right?
CISA, I did go to a
Yeah.
CISA meeting,
Oh, yeah, the annual?
Yeah, it was last
How was
one.
that?
That was good. You know, they kind of go through like, and just give a summary of what services they can provide to us. I don't think we take advantage of all of the things that they offer, but one of the neat things that they highlighted is that they can accelerate teacher trainings to getting licensed. So I think you have, I don't remember the requirements, but if you have like a college degree, they can help you like move kind of in an accelerated way through to get a license. Local, you know, and support, stay in the
They're,
district.
absolutely, they're one of our key go-tos when we have questions about licensure, for whether someone's thinking of moving here, whether we have what supports that person thinking about becoming a teacher, or someone who has one type of teacher license going to another. Substitute teaching stuff, they've been a resource for. So CISA 7, honestly, I would say, not to sound critical of their other services, but that is one of the most helpful things I've seen from them in my 12 years here. And you're right, there are different services, right, that you can purchase. We kind of keep it on the low end of the spectrum in our agreement with them. Get what we need. But yeah, there are other things you could do more. And some of the really small districts that don't have, you know, business manager, special ed director, whatever, sometimes they then contract with CISAs and all that other stuff. Yeah, so thank you for going to that.
Yeah.
I think committees and seminars, I don't think we've had anything in particular, or conferences as far as from a board perspective. I think that's pretty quiet right now, right? Administrative wise, I think the summer, they really don't have to report. I don't think I heard from anyone here tonight who had something they needed to plug. Am I missing anything? Nope, they're all shaking their head or waving. All right, so they're yielding time on that. Maybe Jake, anything to add with, I know a couple of those other things you have sent out just to highlight for them?
Yeah, I sent out, and you have it in front of you, just a year-to-date projection, or, excuse me, year-end projection. Right, this week is a, big week, in that we have our, biggest payroll of the year by far. We pay out the summer portion, of the 12 months, salary that we owe teachers, including doing health insurance benefits. We get our open enrollment voucher numbers. I think in my original one, I addressed the special education categorical aid came out earlier this month. So we jumped from about 75% of our budget or our expenses being done for the year this past Friday to about 97-98% really being done as of today. And so looking probably somewhere around that $100,000 surplus mark, which is a good sweet spot to add to fund balance for cash flow purposes, especially just as a reminder, right? Fund balance, it's an equity position as of June 30th. So it includes our current cash minus our liabilities plus any receivables. That big receivable is taxes. The last tax payment comes in on August 20th. We do not get any major revenue until the first Monday in December. And so that cash and that first Monday in December is 25% of our equalization aid. And since we know that our revenue shift is going from equalization aid to tax levy, first taxes come in around January 15th. And so adding to that fund balance to help with that cash flow is important. Some information in there. I'm not going to say a whole lot of information, but information for you nonetheless. And yeah, any questions?
All right, what was the total budget for busing for the field and athletic trips?
I have it's let me go 2, 5, 6. So athletics is came up to about 75,000. And then field trips, no, that's regular, sorry. So the regular total, so regular ed and special ed will come out to about 435. And then field trips about 35. Athletics is a little bit higher. I think we had some extra state stuff this year. And so that's a little bit higher, but
Yeah, do you know what percent, I heard the numbers, but what percentage is 15,000? Of the total budget, like what percent?
of the total budget?
Of the budget for the field and athletic.
For the transportation.
I gotcha.
So I'm just saying, yeah, so you're 15,000 over just on the field and athletic trips, right?
Yeah, so that would be about 10%.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anything else, Jake, you wanted to hit, or question for Jake for now?
The only thought I had, Jake, was, as you know, Dan was mentioning, putting together the 2-page kind of budget information in preparation for our referendum discussions in August. And I've looked at the numbers that you prepare for like the time that I've been on the board, and still sometimes I get turned around. And I was wondering if we could come up with a creative way to visually kind of show like the comparison, like even simple box and whisker plots, like here's the number.
You okay?
We assume one thing, but then if we change our assumptions, here's how it changes.
2395. 2395, yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yes, yeah, so kind of, so that and that two-sided sheet with the 3 boxes on each side is what Dan was talking about.
Yeah.
We're saying, hey, do some call-out boxes to say, hey, this is what this is. That's what that is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and because I was thinking in my head, how could I simplify this so it's a little bit easier to translate to
Yeah.
someone instead of rows of numbers that are kind of dizzying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
For sure.
cool.
Anything else for Jake at the moment? More to come. All right, what I'll do, if it's okay, Acting President Haas, I'll just flip flop the presiding officer, and then I'll finish with with my report like usual, so that way I don't forget to touch on that. Not a major thing. Board policy 0163 with presiding officer states this, and this is important because both the president and vice president believe they will be gone next month. So we'll need someone else to run the July meeting.
You get to do this job.
That's right. So the good news is the policy is a whole 1 sentence. Well, actually, I take it back, 2 sentences, my mistake. The president shall preside at all. In the absence, disability, or disqualification of the president, the vice president shall act instead. If neither person is available, any member shall be designated by a plurality of those present to preside. A great 3 P words in a phrase there. The act of any person so designated shall be legal and binding. So all that is give it some thought, right? Mike and Allison and I had been in contact knowing that's a unique spot next month.
You too.
Having a chance for board members to think about, okay, who might be willing to step in and help us run the meeting, knowing the agenda or the packet certainly shouldn't be as long as this one. It doesn't have to be an officer or whoever. It could just be literally anybody who's at the board meeting from the board where the board agrees, yeah, so-and-so can get us through. Yes, all right. So just so we know, we didn't want it to spring up on you or just be in an email and be like, oh, what's gonna happen? All right. So it sounds like Commissioner Wind is saying, hey, I can walk us through that if we want. Others think about it and whatever, but we didn't want it to be a surprise next month. Good on that one?
Good on that one.
All right.
I just wanted to tell everybody I'm gonna be in Montreal and I'm really excited.
Even though you'll miss us tremendously.
Yeah.
All right, so I can finish with my report and then we'll be done for tonight unless something else pops. Just again, a couple of highlights, teaching and learning. You saw this, my annual thank you message. Just always want to highlight, thanks to everyone that helped us get through the school year, right? That's students, parents, staff members, community members, volunteers, a long, long list. Thank you to everyone. I always like to verbalize that, and I'll do so again more on the radio, of course, next week. The Clipper Connection newsletter was out in the Pulse last weekend, as probably many people have seen. Thanks to everyone who helps make that happen. I'm going through a couple of things on those topics that were in the report, but I'm gonna skip ahead probably to one more thing, and then I'll do the additional ones. The one I add way at the end, board, I'll send you all this because some of this goes beyond the packet. The very last item I had in the report that was in the packet just deals with all the meetings with the high school staff and working them through a bunch of things. I have just in the last couple of days gone through a potential schedule. I know the board will talk next fall. Obviously, referendum is, I mean, having school, of course, let's not get ourselves, safe and orderly school environment, always a top priority. Referendum is right there with it, as we know, next fall. And then I already have for you potential timeline on posting for high school principal and all that kind of stuff. I've got that sketched out. Obviously, this summer, we don't need to be worrying about, right? In my mind, we could post it as early December, right? Provided things go a certain way in the fall, of course, which again, you'll be talking about. 2-month kind of posting would get us to early February. I've looked at 2 different scenarios, depending on how many meetings you want to go to in February, where we could have round 1 interviews that either fall during the week of our regular February meeting, which probably would involve 2 different, like a Monday, Tuesday evening. And if that Monday, Tuesday, and a board meeting Wednesday is a bit much, basically we'll just take the Monday and Tuesday and put it the next week. All right, so, and in essence, what it is, it's probably, I'm guessing, if we bring 6 people in person, which we've traditionally done, and make it to that point, they've survived the Zooms with me and all the different things, and we think, yeah, this is worthwhile. It'd be back-to-back nights of 3 hours of interviews and then some debriefing afterwards, knowing the debriefing on day 2 is even more so important than day 1, because by then you've seen everyone that we had in person, if we can get 6 in. And then what February does for us, whether it's the week of the board meeting or that last week, it positions us to bring in finalists, theoretically in place of the March learning session, which then gives us time, theoretically, 2 weeks to turn that around from finalist round interviews and right who the board's comfortable with, et cetera, to then have a person, work through contract stuff and have a person approved in the regular March meeting. Right, so I make general reference to kind of past samples I shared with staff saying, more to come, with the board will cross that bridge when we're comfortable, when we're ready to, but I just want you to know I've got that all sketched out when the time comes. All right, moving on to my additional items for tonight. Again, community survey dates, we talked about those, right? Reminders are going out. I don't think I need to reread that paragraph. We've hit on most of that already. In the August 5th session, hit on that. From today's Memorial Park outdoor complex, athletic complex, I know it's ended up with different phrases depending on who you're talking to. So we did meet this morning. We talked first, so I'm just going to hit on 2 things. First, we talked about what needs to go into the intergovernmental agreement between the district and the city, right? We've talked about some of those pieces. An attorney for the city will start some of the drafting there. But then really what we spend time on is the process to move this along, like the whole civil engineering and kind of who the city has worked with, how the district process works, bearing in mind this is under the city's umbrella, right? It's going to route through them. And in the end, what we're doing is going with an RFQ, where instead of a true proposal, it's basically the opportunity for them to show their qualification process, as Wayne is nodding, right? And have that out, in essence, very quickly. And then what we're looking at is having that go. The city's going to send it to the vendors, firms they've worked with. And then as a representative of the district, the group agreed, Dan, why don't you send it to a few of those entities that have worked with the district, if they're interested in taking a run at it. All right, I've already sent it to 3. Let me rephrase. I didn't send the proposal because we're waiting on that RFQ. But I gave them a heads up email of what was discussed in the meeting today. We got a response from one of them already, like, oh, we'll probably be interested. And then once I have that this week, I will send the follow-up to them. And here's the timeline. We're trying to keep that part of it moving so this doesn't bog down. We're going to tell those firms they need to respond by July 15th, right? Giving them not quite a month, but close. It's on the radar for several of them already anyway. And then the committee plans to meet just to kind of go through that and try to narrow down and kind of help the city along, if you will, to then have maybe 2 firms, 3, 4, who knows, whatever the short list is, come in to the city already on July 23rd to have an interview or conversation of sorts. To then say, okay, who could end up doing this? What we're trying to do is not just look at the engineering part, but trying to say, okay, some of these firms offer different types of services. Yes, that's important. And yes, construction management is incredibly important. But so is working with a group that, I don't know, is going to fundraise, right? Some of these companies have the marketing and the fundraising expertise to assist a project like this, more so than others. So as we talked about it, and I just shared a couple examples of companies maybe that have reached out to me, where I've said, well, that's not the school board in my call, we're going through the city, but, and as we talked it through, the thinking was, yes, we want to at least give some firms a chance to take a run at this, to maybe position the whole community, the project in the best way possible. So in that regard, I think there was a lot of progress of the many, many meetings that we've gone through for that, trying to keep that moving along. I also should point out, the group really would like to have another community session for those who are interested in it, but we also realize we want to time that right? If you have it too soon, that's not that helpful. Too late, it's too late, and so we're trying to let these pieces play out, and if we know who's coming on and they're trying to get some pricing, and then different things like, hey, is it positioned in such a way that the current soccer field can remain, the base, like what's been talked about as passion things for this community, can it be positioned in a way to include everything in that phase that needs to, without messing with stuff that doesn't need to be messed with, but also leaving some space for future phases if the community so desires that at that point. So long story short, that was today's pretty lengthy meeting, but I thought that that went well, and I wanted you all to know, and I told them that I would give you this update tonight.
Dan, I have a question.
Yeah.
I've been part of RFQ processes and like proposals at work, and one thing that made the process a little better was when we would make like a matrix of whatever kind of metrics we thought we wanted to have included or evaluated for each of the different vendors, because sometimes they can be really different. But I'm guessing the committee kind of has a vision of what they want and value. And that could be translated so that then each person can like individually assess the vendor relative to these metrics that you've decided are valuable. And then you get together and talk, and you like have already done your thought work, so that then you come to the conversation without, it's sometimes groupthink happens. Do you know what I mean?
So, I wouldn't say we're at the point of any matrix. I would say some of the group members have very little experience of the steering committee, no, not the city. The steering committee have very little experience with some of this. Some of us have a little bit more. We've talked about, in the end, it's ultimately going to be a city decision on that piece, right? For the dollars and how it flows and everything. Through, I'm losing track of the proper committee, and then before it goes to the full council. But we talked that through today. At one point, the city talked about, are we comfortable just staying with heirs? And maybe heirs ends up doing the work. But I think there were at least a couple of us that kind of thought, well, in the grand scheme process wise, be kind of nice to at least give some different entities a crack at it. So anyway, that's kind of the route we went, knowing that ultimately it's going to be a city call, but trying to get some of these other entities a chance, if you will, is kind of as far as we got with that part today. Yeah, but yeah, there are different ways of kind of like, considering different types of proposals, right? That there are ways to kind of go about that.
Mm-hmm.
We also talked, just so you know, the last thing I can think of for now, but then feel free if you have a question. Kind of with Josh in particular, like, okay, we've talked about like a small committee, right? Because you have all this stuff going on, the district, the city, the council, the school board, finance, park and rec committee, like all these different things. And is there still something to be said for trying to have a small group of 5, 7, I don't know, people where there's representatives of the key entities, but it's small to then kind of not have to make a decision, but make a recommendation to then flow. So we'll see where that goes to, but if not for this part of the process, certainly for the future. Anything else I can tell you on that, at least for now?
Glad to hear that they've listened to, you know, some of the comments that have been made, maybe shifting locations on things. And are they communicating with, the different coaches of the sports that would be utilizing that facility to ensure that the features that they would look for in something like that are being, or trying to be designed?
Yeah, I would say that would be a future step.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. And again, that was part of whether we're working with heirs under that city umbrella or another entity, they're gonna have to involve other members anyway. So then wanting to make sure, so Craig Siegel would have been one of the ones that spoke up, as did I, so as a couple of your district people, right, about, you know, in the end, did we get a visual because it looks good? Or did we get a visual because perhaps is that scale of the soccer / athletic field inside the track really right? So is that an heirs visual thing, or is that gonna turn into an engineering thing? Right, so not to go too deep in the weeds, that was one of many conversations we had today. And that's where we thought, you know, in the end, if it ends up being heirs and they get us what we need with the right people, fine. But I think process-wise between that and the fundraising and whatnot, I kind of like the concept because we know of different firms that do different types of work, at least giving them a crack at it.
Well, and just a quick reference, you know, you can build that stadium a number of different ways. You know,
Yeah.
you can make the track shorter and a little bit wider. Matter of fact, I think what I was told with where that stadium was set on that initial drawing that we saw with Cloverly, like that stadium doesn't exist in that width anymore. That was an old use, like, item to drop on the.
Yeah, it's an old clip of art.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, it'll be great to see, you know, when everybody talks about the different needs that are, and one of the things that's a little gray area is honestly 11-man versus 8-man football too. Which is something that's being discussed and how that field gets set up for them.
Yeah, I think a lot of discussions will need to happen. As we talked in that group today, again, just trying, not being the deciding group, if you will, but helping it move along. That the intergovernmental agreement, you know, things around insurance and shared property owner, you know, all the things you've kind of heard about and others that you don't need to worry about with insurance, for example. Like that all gets baked into the one piece. But rather than wait for that to get figured out to do this, I think that group has some doers on there, right? And we're all kind of like, well, hey, let's move this other part along so that our partner can be ready to start partnering with us, whoever that ends up being, and working with us and the right people to move that along to.
Don't want to miss out on any $2 million grants.
Or others.
Yes.
It's funny how this happens too. My wife says to me when I quick ran home and ate before, she says, okay, so-and-so, I don't remember the name, talked to what would be her mom, right? My mother-in-law, who said, I saw something about the whole city and the school, they're trying to work on this project. And so-and-so, who I know from Minnesota, said the Minnesota Twins actually has a, you know, kind of like the Packers have a foundation, right? There are these other teams that have, and it doesn't limit it to, this could be potentially a playground thing, KDE, or an offshoot of this project where, you know, some of those teams will do this for kids' benefit, even if kids are elsewhere.
Absolutely.
And so it was one of those things where, like, you know, as many of those as can be pursued as possible. I mean, it happens. So interesting.
Yep.
Minnesota Twins back there, look it up. All right, so back to, I'll just kind of keep this moving. I know we're about ready to be done here. I have a couple of things, and again, you will get the updated copy of this. Diplomas. Thanks to Commissioner Schultz for making me aware from another former board member who, if you didn't already hear the story on this, the word graduation on diplomas in script, the N is actually not an N.
It's an M.
It's an M, as in man. You can imagine poor Mrs. Mellon won't have a heart attack. Not that it's her, right? I mean, it's, so anyway, Lori has been in contact with our diploma person. Those are all being reordered, reprinted by the company and sent to us.
Are we gonna re-sign them?
Guess what you get to do in July? Well, or whenever, yeah.
Yeah.
The hope is that they're here in time to have a bunch of signatures with the July meeting so that they can then be mailed out, etc. So just letting you know, that is in process.
I'm excited because when I learned that you could write notes on someone, like, I didn't know that before I signed. So there's gonna be some notes on it now.
the class will be special, and one could argue 2 diplomas, I mean, who gets that? right?
Exactly, yeah.
All right, so a couple of things with that, are in process. Graduation itself, just so you know, the plan is to go with empty diploma covers next year. Kids still are earning their diploma, right, to align with our own board policy, but we'll avoid that. We're gonna have all board members listed. There's a few different things I'm tweaking, where we're getting tweaked. Lori and I have talked through this multiple times to get those things under control. Or in place, whatever you wanna call it. I also have a thought about maybe seeing what next year's seniors think about how to do the tassel, right? You can do that as they come across the stage, cause I kind of think I'll probably still stay in my usual favorite spot off stage when they come down, cause I like that spot. And a board member theoretically wouldn't have to move the tassel, which 5% of the time falls off their head anyway.
Yeah.
There's a way, like we did in my previous, again, there's different ways of doing this where the kids, we can get a couple kids, maybe they're the speakers. Again, I'll talk to some of the kids next year, we'll figure it out, where they lead the class as the whole group as one, moves the tassel across, right? And then there can be a key phrase, probably I would say, and then that's the moment they know to throw their hats if they want to do that. So there's some different things we'll work through. Lastly, for now, and I'm not going to read all this because believe it or not, some of you can kind of see, Allison, right, this is almost 2 pages on some of these different graduation things. But working through the timing of graduation. So I've got a note with my superintendent hat on, like for the most part. Okay, district office, I'm just gonna go off script and just tell you a little bit. District office and the school board, my own experience and kind of personal thoughts are, we stay out of the graduation business, we let the high school do it. But we take their invitation, we show up, we support and whatnot. However, at some point in the future, if we think we want to get the board involved in the selection of the graduation date, my suggestion to you would be, we should bake that into the school calendar consideration process. So it's not popping up like, here we are this year, like, when is graduation, right? It's the end of the year. And again, you saw that in some of my notes. I don't need to relive all that. All right. So back to now, I'm going to switch over to be the principal of your seniors. So really, Keith talked to me more than a year ago about, want to talk to some people, have some conversations to try to figure this out moving forward. Obviously, that's come up with, how shall we say, renewed vigor in recent weeks, trying to get this figured out for next year. So the first people to make me aware of this would be like the music department, that they're having a bigger issue with conflicts on Memorial Day weekend. Now, remember what happens with the calendar is there are years where graduation can be right the weekend before the end of school, doesn't conflict with Memorial Day weekend. Then there are years like probably the next 3 where it does. All right, so there's some music department considerations. I won't go into all that. Also, again, for some families, Memorial Day weekend, great weekend for graduation. For some families, not. Some are campers, some are not. Again, you've been around this community longer than me in most cases. One of the things that was interesting when we talked about possibly going to during the week, next thing you know, it became known that, wait a minute, one of our parents who will have an 8th grader and a 12th grader next year said, oh, Washington, D.C. And so upon checking with Mr. Propsum, who of course we saw this evening, the sweet spot for the middle school to do the 8th grade trip ends up coming up that same week. If they go earlier, it conflicts with a major police chiefs conference or something, where I guess DC is crazy. And if you go later, not only it's the end of the year, then the field trips, there's even more field trips. So it's like, oh, no, there's not a ton of kids or not a ton of families each year, but there would probably be some. We know there would be with, okay, so we don't want to fix one problem and cause another. Certainly touch base with it in the high school staff meeting back on May 7th. The building leadership team just met last Tuesday. So we sat and we had an all-day meeting going through some different things. I think the reality, well, no, let me get ahead of myself here. John Dupuy looked at WIAA dates, so on and so forth, just to make sure we don't avoid one problem and cause a different one. And really, I think on the pros and cons, I mean, the biggest con really that some of the staff would share is, well, the loss of instructional time for seniors getting out earlier. Normally, we're in the business of wanting people to be in school. And as I shared with a couple of people recently, like, I don't know how many schools are actually scheduling 180 days of school nowadays, honestly, but we do. All right. When I broke it down for BLT, the building leadership team, last week, I said this year, the seniors got out of school 5.5 days earlier by moving up all the way to Saturday, May 22nd next year to avoid Memorial Day. They would actually get out 8.5 days earlier. So the first thought was, is it really 2 weeks? Because it's 2 weeks on the calendar. It's 3 more days because of Memorial Day weekend. We have an in-service on Friday and no school on Monday. All right, so that's pretty much where we're at there. I did ask some of them to talk to other parents they know in the class of 2027. So I think there's one or two of you already that are probably aware of hearing this from some of our staff who I know are parents that I've asked to reach out. But anyway, long story short, where we're sitting is Saturday, May 22nd, to avoid, again, some of those other conflicts. And then we can talk more about what that looks like moving forward. What I didn't necessarily see coming, because I don't really worry about it, would be topics such as senior night, where some of the staff said, you know, maybe it doesn't need to be on that Thursday night, because the parents that do all the work end up having to take off of work. Maybe they wouldn't mind being on the previous weekend. And so actually, as that has floated out, and I think it's okay to say that we're probably hearing from more moms than anybody, that there is some interest in potentially moving it up to the Saturday before graduation. So people aren't having to take off of work. They can decorate here at school. There's not a conflict with Jenny. I don't mean that to sound bad, but like the food service, right? They're trying to run lunch. Meanwhile, they're trying to set up and all those types of things. So I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if senior night ends up on May 15th, the week, again, that Saturday before graduation. Boat parade, you know, I'm a big proponent and driving it and all that. I really don't want to be in charge of it. And frankly, you don't necessarily need the district to be in charge of it for some different reasons. I don't have to say at the moment. But in talking with some folks, again, one of these parents who may or may not have volunteered her husband. And between us, we've talked, and she's already thought about families that maybe could take the lead for the next 5 years. And it could be run as an offshoot of the senior night. It could be basically a senior night subcommittee. So that way you could keep going each year, and right, some senior parents could involve a junior parent, right? Matt Fransom has all the info, reach out, get, you know, copies of our insurance cards, all that. So we're working through that, trying to get a system that then is, the high school office doesn't have to be in charge of that. But yet, yes, we'll help with communication just like we do, get a process. And then I'll finish with this. I do have a September or a letter drafted to the families of seniors. I'd like to see it go out the second week of September, second week of school, hitting on all the key dates once a couple of these last details have settled in, and some different things about their obligations. Feedback I'm getting from a few teachers and from the office, they want that to be clear. So I've told the office, I said, hey, I'd like to see fines, fees, detentions, you name it, anything they owe. Let's make sure, yes, they can get it emailed, yes, they can access it online, but I want a paper copy sent to all families already that second week of school, so we can avoid some of the drama and surprises that sometimes arise in spring. So dusting off some of this from my memory banks, and we're, as staff are raising things very appropriately, I think we're working through it.
Yeah, and that senior night.
Yeah.
Going to Saturday, I think that's good. We had sent some responses back.
Yeah.
And girls soccer was always one that got hit, right? So they always had it away.
That Thursday night, yes.
Yeah, night for some reason every year. And so they're late. They don't.
Yeah,
get
even
chance
if they're
to
at
go
home,
or
they're
all the
still
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we had that last year in my house as well.
So, yeah, so I've experienced it for quite a few years.
I think baseball.
And I don't even.
Baseball, we got kind of the next short list on it, you're right.
Probably.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah. May
Smart.
15th theoretically avoids at least the state tournament series for spring sports. Now, let's be honest, there could be a doubleheader rescheduled during the day because we know what April looks like. But as far as some of that evening stuff, I think we could avoid what you're pointing out too for some of the kiddos and families as well. Yes.
People are gonna be cold jumping in the water May 22nd. They're cold.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah, too. Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. Yeah.
They do it twice, 3 times now.
Yeah.
Some do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, that was a lot. I will send this to you again. I know a couple people had asked questions. I actually had some of this typed up and I thought, I'm not gonna send you an email on that in the last week when you have this massive board packet, so. There were a couple of those I just sat on until now.
I have a question, and it is part of the superintendent's report.
Feel free.
What feedback have you received on what our plan is for Principal Smallin, Athletic Director Dupuy, and you taking over the leadership of the high school this year?
Yeah,
I mean, I've seen it places, but I was just wondering what you've heard.
yeah, I think so I don't read social media stuff, which doesn't shock you, and some of you know this because we discussed it recently. I'm told that like the Pen Pulse article that had comments are really not local people or families for the most part. Especially if,
I would confirm that.
yes, Andy's one of the people that's been in contact with me, so. You know, I think if you're from northern Illinois or outside the area, some of you want one superintendent for the county, but God forbid you have shared administrative duties because the poor kids, right? So some of it is downright comical. I think the meetings that I think have been important with staff have gone well. I think they know we'll do everything we can and have been to be responsive as to whether it's this item or that item, you know. So as I think we're making the rounds and checking with them, like, is there anything else you need? It's gotten some very positive, again, not trying to pat us on the back, but back to your question, like of being responsive to what we need, knowing some folks are struggling with change in general. Some of that's whether it's schedule, some of that's uncertainty. I think some of our staff, I'll say like a veteran or two that have only been here, they've only had 2 principals in 15 years. And that some of them only know a model where there's one principal. I've never been involved with a high school that only has one administrator. Everywhere I've been is like 2 to 4. So I think for some people, it's what you're used to. So I think some of our people are like, I don't fully understand it, but yeah, we'll be fine. Right? Other people, I don't fully understand it. I'm just not sure. But again, as we went around and met with all of them, it was like, well, what can we tell you and what do you need? And clicking through as much of that as possible. I think one of the things, and Mark won't mind because he can take it. You know, if you're a high school staff member, the thought of the middle school principal helping out, well, no, he's the middle school principal. Right? And as we've
But
talked.
he's a grown up, not a middle.
Oh, yes,
schooler.
that's right. I mean, Luke and I have talked about this and laughed about, and Mark knows, right? Like, okay, so sometimes, oh, there might be this disagreement because of da. And as I've shared with some of them, it's like, well, yeah, because Mark has been the advocate for the middle school. Right? And a lot of the stuff they've worked on, right, has gone really well. And some of the staff, I've had staff tell me like, oh, one of my colleagues was concerned, but I told him or her that, hey, but look what the middle, you know, those types of things. So I think what's funneling back from a few folks is kind of like, you know, well, he hasn't said a whole lot, which is kind of by design, as Mark and I have talked. But like, yeah, I've had a question about scheduling and he took care of it the next day. Or, you know, those types of things happening. They know John, it's just a little bit of a different piece. Some of them realize John has administrative experience. It's just not the principally type stuff yet. But as far as organization, professionalism, following through, when he tells you he's gonna do it, he's gonna do it, right? He can talk to kids, like all that. They kind of know that.
Okay.
So now we're kind of sorting through, and some of it's as simple as the League of Women Voters reaches out, right? Not trying to bother us, right? So she goes to you and they didn't bother me with it. Kind of like, okay, I know the high school is having, you know, the 3 of them are gonna figure it out. So who do you think I should reach out to about connecting with the kids about, oh, registering to vote? So some of it's just a natural, I'm just not who to yet. The departments know that, okay, if you're this department, your lead person is, right? So like John's gonna take the lead with Phi Ed and special ed. No, he's not a principal. No, it's not an administrative position, but he is certified, right? He has a principal license. He can do their observations.
And I think
Mark
that's
and I divided the rest. Sorry, you were saying.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
When we're asked about it, I think it's worth us sharing that John is licensed to do what more than we're asking him
absolutely.
to do.
Yeah, no question. So I think there's that whole piece. And then like the kid piece, right? John will take the lead on matters of attendance and behavior. But at the same time, if there's a kid thing, I mean, juniors, seniors, I help, Mark helps, or we're just walking along, a kid's having a tough time. Well, we don't publish it, but we've all stepped in with kids now because we're all right here. Just as Jake and Lindsay and Jen have stepped in with admin situations in the past, the public doesn't really know that, but they're here. We need someone, we step in. So again, I think some of that, you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. You know, some people are hesitant yet. It's change. I get it. And I've told them that in this room a couple of times. Some are kind of like, well, I don't know, everything that I need is getting done. It'll be fine. Some are probably somewhere between. And honestly, I think a lot of that would be no different than if we went with an interim person like we knew was an option, or we were trying to find someone. I will say, based on a conversation Jake and I were having this week on a different topic, but it came to what do you think the candidate pool would be looking like this summer? And we were both like, probably even less optimistic than we would have been a few weeks ago. Just based on some things we're seeing and hearing. But. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, I
Anything
just
else
think it's-
I can tell you with that?
Like a really great plan. I just thought, I was hoping I'd hear like really favorable support.
I would say, whether, some unique different positions in the high school who interact with a lot of different people. I would say have given, even if it's one-on-one without other people around, very favorable feedback to Mark directly, John directly, and me directly. I won't name them just in case one of their colleagues is upset with them, but
Very
I don't think they're upset with it. We're working it through, like we often say.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. Acting President Haas, I think, unless someone else has a question, you can be ready to wrap this baby up.
Yeah, do I have to get a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Thank you.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Great. So we have a motion from Commissioner Starr, seconded by Commissioner Wind. Further discussion? No? Okay, everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, everybody.
If you want to have fun with President Stefani, he actually was calling during the meeting.
Oh, really?
And then he texted me, I apologize, what was I thinking? He was just verifying if we had a learning session in July or not, so if you want to mess with them. I did tell him we don't, but you can tell him we added a learning session and just have a little fun with him.